Hi guys, I'm Ram Agarwal. You are watching my channel 52 Pixels. Let's get started. Hi guys, in today's tutorial we are going to see how to fake a 3D in Photoshop. So as you can see, this is the fake 3D that I created. So this is not a 3D file where I just sat for hours together waiting for it to get rendered and then working around with this one. But it is just a simple, actually it's a 2D thing, but we are going to do something with the 2D to make it look like a 3D object. So let's see how to do that now in Photoshop. So before starting, I'll just delete this once. So here we have our background that we are going to work with today, and to create the 3D or the 2D text that is going to look like 3D, what we have to do first is just go to the shape tool where we have something called as the ellipse tool, and using a gradient, so you can just, yours might be set to like this, somewhat like a plain color or no fill at all. So you can just tap on this third option which says gradient, and you get the gradient panel over here, and we have all these options called as purples and pinks or blues. So depending on what your choice is or what you want, you can just select a color. So let's say if I just want to select this color or this color like this, or I don't know, any color that you feel is suitable for you. Let's try with this color. I don't know, I just feel like it's going to look good. And now using the shift key, just hold down the shift key and drag out a circle, because if you leave the shift key, it is going to make an ellipse, and if we don't want an ellipse, we want a circle. So just hold the shift key and it is going to draw a circle. So now once the circle is drawn, you can just leave the cursor and the shift key, and it is going to be placed as a shape. And as you can see, we have a complete shape over here on a different layer, and with this layer selected, I can just press Ctrl+J and it is going to duplicate this layer. With this duplicated layer, I can just right click on this layer and I can say that it is a rasterized layer, because earlier it was a shape layer, and the trick that we are going to use today needs a rasterized layer. We don't need a shape layer, so I can just turn this off for the time being. And now what we are going to do is just use a brush. So yours might be set to somewhat like this over here which says a brush tool, but if you long tap on this brush tool, we have something called as mixture brush tool. So once you tap on mixer brush tool, this window opens up. It's similar like the brush tool, but here from the drop down you can select different types of brushes. So I'm going to select a hard round brush, and what I am going to do is just make sure that I'm working with the ellipse 1 copy layer, and I'll just increase the size of brush enough so that this brush, the shape that we created, just like it's consumed with this brush. So now that, as you can see, I have kind of made the brush size similar to the size of the shape. What I'm going to do is just hold the Alt key, and it is just going to sample this colors from the circle. So from this circle, I'm just going to give a left click and it is going to get selected. Now what I can do is just reduce the brush size according to my needs. So let's say I want to reduce the brush size over here with the size of 100. What I have to do is just get the settings from here. So currently the setting of wet is at 50%. Make sure the wet is at 100%, because that's how the fluid your brush is going to be. Load is 50, mix is 50, that is okay because this is a 50-50 mix. Flow is 100%. Make sure that this thing, it should be naturally it should be at 0, that is the default value, but you want the brush to be smooth. So let's see, I'll just revert the settings. Yeah. So these are all your default settings. Now if you use these default settings, this is what is going to happen. So now as you can see over here, I drew a shape, but as you can see, it has very sharp edges and it doesn't look that fluid, that smooth, and I want it to be smooth. So for that, what I have to do is just first go to this brush settings over here, and we have this option called as smoothing, which I guess might be selected in yours by default, but if it is not selected by default, just make sure that it is selected. Go to smoothing and just tap the checkbox, and it is going to make the brush smoother. Now if you see, it is way better because it doesn't have the sharp edges, it has that fluid smooth edges that we want. But moreover, even after that, what we can do is just, this is the smoothing option. So currently by default it is set at 0%. We can set it to around 30 or 40%, and it is going to provide us with a very smooth and very accurate and a kind of a 3D brush that we want to work with this in this tutorial. And now, as you can see, I can just start by drawing the text or the shape that I want. So over here, if you can notice, it has very soft and very smooth edges. There's nothing like a sharpness to it, and because the wetness of this brush is set to 100%, as you can see, it is looking very fluid and it looks very natural and realistic. So using this brush settings, what we are going to do is just, I'll add a new layer on which we are going to work. And with this new layer, I'm just going to tap grow. I'm just going to tap using the brush, and I'm going to write the text grow. So what I want to do is just, using the mouse, I just have to draw this text. So this is G, and same way I'm going to write all the alphabets. So this is R, O. O is not too accurate actually. So working with mouse is quite difficult, so you'll need more time to learn how to draw with mouse instead of just the time required to learn this thing. So using this mixer brush is very simple. Using this tool and this little hack from Photoshop, it's very simple, but learning how to draw with a mouse, it's literally tough and can just take you hours or even days for that matter. So now that I've made this 3 letters, let's move on to the final letter, that is W. So you can actually just work around with your mouse and give angles. So currently, if you see the W, if I just reduce the width of the W, it is going to look as if I'm looking at it from the right hand side, and this looks like a right hand side view just because I drew it in that way. But actually it is not a 3D object, it's just a 2-dimensional object. But just because of the fluidity of the brush and the softness of the curves, it is just looking as if it's a 3D object and I'm looking at it from the right angle or the right hand side. So make sure that you work around with what angle do you want the observer to look from, because that's what it's going to give you the 3D feel actually. So as you can see over here, it is looking like this is seen from the front, everything is seen from the front, but the W, it's looking like it is being seen from a different angle. It's because of these 2 corners not matching in one line. So just make sure that you work with fluidity, and you have to be very composed while working with these brushes, because you are working with a mouse after all, and it is really tough to work with a mouse. So now that I've got my text, I can just drag it anywhere I want. So somewhere over here I want the text to be. And now with this layer selected, I can just go to a drop shadow and add a drop shadow. So I want my shadow to be a little fluffy and I want it to be a little big. So the size is going to be around 20 or 25, and the spread is going to be 8 or 10, because that is going to determine the width and the softness or the fluffiness of my shadow. So now that I've got the shadow, I can just hit OK, and I've got the shadow. Now I can just right click on the drop shadow and tap on the option called as create layer. So what it is going to do is just, it is going to create a new layer of the shadow, and we have seen this already, so I don't have to introduce this to you once again. But now that we have worked with the shadow, I can just drag it down a little bit so that it looks like this object is actually a 3D object. And now I can just work around with the blending mode. So I guess according to me, the blending modes that work the best normally are multiply, but in this case multiply isn't working well because the background is of same darker color. So we want to see something that kind of negates the strong shadows, and for that I guess that is going to be soft light. So as you can see, soft light is working quite well, and then you can just work around with the opacity to make it look even more natural. So my opacity is currently set to 50%, and the blending mode is soft light. So just look at the shadow, it is looking really natural, and it just looks like this text is actually a 3D text where it has the shadows in the background, and we can definitely remove this one. It was just there for the sampling. Now as you can see, this is the main image that we wanted. So it is not actually a 3D image, that is actually, you can call it as a 2.5D or 2.5 dimensional, because it is actually a 2D image, but it has all the shadows and it has all the depth and the fluidity which makes it look like a 3D. So that is why I'm calling it a 2.5D. But anyways, we have faked a 3D and we have saved us lots of time and work by working with 3D. So make sure that if you want to do some small things like this, like a text or drawing a shape or something like that, which cannot be done in a fast way with 3D, you can just definitely work with this trick and your 3D work would be reduced, and the time is definitely going to get reduced because of this tool. So well, that's it for today guys. If you found the video to be helpful, please like the video, and in case of any queries or suggestions, please feel free to reach out to me through the comments. With that being said, it's me Agarwal signing off for the day. See you in the next one. Thank you.